I think A Tale of Our Time describes a human experience that people can relate to on a broad scale. Something that describes a story or an emotion that you can immediately understand within a context that we can recognize.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so interesting, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle books, movies, podcasts, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and joining me today is my guest, Hanna Bilinski.
Hey, hey.
Welcome. Hanna is also one of our new hosts here at RTI.
Yes, one of the new hires. Just received my lashings for the day.
You've been here for about a month now.
Yes. So now there's some calluses there.
I was going to say, I hope you find it
bad.
more tolerable than before.
I think so. It's been good. I think I've more or less adjusted to what's going on here. Yep.
Is there anything that you would like to say to introduce yourself beyond new RTI host?
I think all you really need to know is I'm a big nerd, and that will become very apparent over the course of the conversation, I think. And pretty much any other time that I would be on air, you'll be able to tell.
May I ask you, what flavor? It's a weird word, but what flavor of nerd do you consider yourself?
That's fair. A lot of people would probably describe me as like a snobby nerd because I like old stuff a lot. Things
kind of like
that
a vintage
things
nerd.
that can be impenetrable. However, I also like really truly nerdy stuff like Lord of the Rings, for example, or like comic books, which we'll talk about today.
Is Lord of the Rings not an old thing?
I guess you're technically correct,
Yeah.
but it's been made modern though. It's got
it's
you know
consistently
what I mean?
relevant. Is what I guess we could say. It is consistently being made relevant again.
Gosh, I guess I'm not really proving my point. Do I like anything modern? I don't know.
Doesn't matter. I mean, a lot of these things also, a lot of the things that we consider quote unquote old end up being the basis for what is new.
Yeah.
All the elves in fantasy just about today are
totally.
token elves, right? So
Yes.
I think that there's room in there to play around.
Yeah.
So to that point then, what story have you brought for us today?
So I want to talk about Jessica Jones. Specifically, the first run of comic books that was made for her character ages ago now. It was 2001 to 2003. Just to provide a little background. Jessica Jones is a character originally created by writer Brian Michael Bendis and artist Michael Gaydos. I've watched a little bit of the Netflix series, but mainly I'm a fan of the comic. Especially this first one, Alias, that describes her backstory. But after 2018, I would say, I stopped reading because the artist and writer ditched the series.
They changed.
Yeah, but the ones that Bendis and Gaydos, I hope I'm saying their names right, the ones they worked on are amazing. They're so unique, not just because I like the story, but because I really enjoy seeing how they inked her face. They focus a lot more on making her look expressive and real over making her look beautiful.
I was just going to say, is the new one pretty?
Which
specifically pretty?
You don't really see that because, superheroes and heroines are usually perfect, chiseled, whatever.
Kind of like the difference between Watchmen versus other superhero comics at the time.
Yes, it's a lot more gritty, more of a noir kind of influence. And I think that's so fitting for the story, too.
Yeah. It's more on characterizing her rather than making her look like a hero.
Yes. And that all goes together for why I like this character so much.
For those people out there, a run of comics, when it comes to comics that are released in comic books, that's a series. It's basically a series that's done by the same author and artist. Sometimes one of them changes within a single run, but oftentimes just that series of comics done by the same author, artist, it can have a name. So this would be, if someone wanted to buy this one in a collection, let's say, that would be known as the Alias run, right?
Right.
So it's something that happens over a series of books, but these books are usually very short, like little mini magazines. And so that's what we mean by a run of comics. Just to give some context to that, as well as also why that might be different, because in these different comic runs, while the characters may get reused, a lot of times artists and authors, when they work together, they have very different interpretations of the character, kind of like being a director.
Yeah,
like everybody see all the Batman reinventions, right? So I think we all have a good touchstone for that. So anyway, moving forward, so we're going to be discussing the Alias run. Now, this might be a little bit difficult, but I think we'll do our best.
Okay.
For those of us who haven't had the opportunity to read it, would you mind giving us a summary of what happens in Alias?
Okay. So, in Alias, you're introduced to this character, Jessica Jones, a woman who technically has superhero powers, but has kind of fallen from grace due to a series of unfortunate events. And now, instead of protecting citizens or teaming up with other superheroes to save the world, she's just working as a private investigator in a dingy little office building somewhere in town.
Like you said, the noir PI vibe.
Yes. So mainly, she only uses her superpowers to get around the city a little bit easier and to overpower people.
Can I ask what those are? Super strength? I'm going to guess.
Yes. Her superpowers are just super strength. Flight, which she's not good at.
That's very useful, though.
And her landing skills are really bad.
Ouch. Kill her on
she does not look graceful at all.
Right.
And I think she has superhuman resilience to damage and can heal a little bit faster.
She's like extra tough.
Yeah, she's extra tough. Exactly is how I would describe it. So it's like very general kind of
like a discount Superman.
Kind of, honestly.
Although I don't want to like rag on her right at the beginning.
But that's
I guess
like,
that's the vibe, isn't it?
No, that's exactly why I like it.
Anyway, right off the bat, that's what she's going with. She uses her powers mostly to like get around rather than do the saving and other stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. And like if she has to beat somebody up in her line of work, then obviously it will come in handy. But like generally, she's kind of just a normal chick outside of that. There are a few different arcs. You follow her as she tracks down missing persons. She kind of does some like mystery solving almost. And at the same time, you're getting to know this person, what kind of person Jessica Jones is. And you're introduced to her friend, Carol Danvers, a.k.a. Miss Marvel. And Luke Cage, who's, I think, the man with unbreakable skin. Is like how he's referred to, but I think technically his superhero name is Power Man. Yeah, he's in the
he's
show
also just
too.
like extra tough.
Yeah, he's like you can't pierce his skin. That's his power. He has unbreakable skin. It doesn't matter if you shoot a bullet at him or try to stab him. He's gonna be fine.
I would love that.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
That would be great.
And also Scott Lang, who's Ant-Man.
Oh yes.
So these are all kind of like, I don't want to say B-tier heroes, but they are. You know, it's not ones that everybody knows and loves.
That is the point of it, though, too, I think.
Yes, that it all goes together. And she is kind of romantically involved with Luke Cage and also with Scott Lang. There's a bit of a love triangle there that's...
Spicy. Gets a little spicy.
But towards the end, too, of this run of comics, you get a flashback to her origin story, of course. The origin story is just as generic as her powers. She's in a car with her family. They get in a wreck. They collide with some truck that's carrying a mysterious substance.
Super juice.
So generic. Kills all her family, exposes her to whatever that is, and she develops powers.
Yeah.
And it's really just that simple.
I like that. I appreciate that now. I don't want too much.
Now the traumatic events I kind of want to save for like the rest of the conversation. But like
that's I really want to know what happened.
No, it's like the crux of the story. Really.
So you will tell us.
Yes, I totally will.
Okay, perfect.
I totally will.
Then like that actually makes me want to like fast forward to that.
Okay.
Can we do that? Can we like?
But I got a whole build up.
Let's go.
Okay. So me,
I'll officially say what made this run of comics so meaningful to you, and how is it tied to the fifth arc? We don't know what happens yet.
So the story of Jessica Jones is such a human story, and that arc toward the end It shows the abuse that she suffered at the hands of, I guess I would say, her arch nemesis, which is a guy named the Purple Man. This guy's powers are really weird. He is literally purple. I think he got dunked in a vat of some chemical that turned him purple.
Right. Typical superhero stuff.
Yes. And he releases some pheromone that makes him capable of commanding people to do whatever he wants, even if that thing is stop breathing or punch the person next to you.
Evil mind control, basically, through pheromones.
Yes. And she finds herself under this guy's control.
After she became a superhero?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is kind of like I said, right before you enter the story Alias from the beginning.
So in the timeline, this took place right before book one.
Maybe not right before, but pretty close.
Sure.
And so she's his slave, more or less, for a longish period of time. And even after he's locked up, she lives in fear of coming across him again.
Yeah, of course.
Because he makes her do a lot of despicable things that I won't detail on air because it's a little bit R-rated.
Let me ask this question. We don't need to go into the details of it, but are they violence towards others or a type of violence towards herself or both?
It's a lot of both, for sure. It's both for sure. And telling her basically to feel horrible about herself and responsible somehow.
Right.
And ultimately, after they've been, I guess, together for a while, he orders her to attack another superhero. He just kind of flips out and off the cuff, he just says, go and punch one of these Marvel guys. I hate them, And after he commands her to do this, she does. She flies out looking for these superheroes. She has no control over herself. And she punches the first one she sees, which is the Scarlet Witch.
Oh.
And everyone around, they immediately react. They're the Avengers. And so I think it's Thor beats her over the head with his hammer and knocks her out. Just as a response, because they don't know what's going on.
They don't know what's going on. They don't have context for this. And somebody just came and punched their friend.
She just sucker punched Scarlet Witch. Yeah. So she ends up in a coma for a while everyone is trying to figure out, why is she doing this? Eventually, they understand she was under the Purple Man's control, that she was a victim, and they kind of come together to support her. So I love this because this is such a human story that you don't see much in superhero comics. They're usually very much in the realm of high fantasy, and it's something you read to see something crazy and
escapist in that way.
To escape your life, exactly. And normally it doesn't really depict something that you could relate to. And I also really appreciate this implicit message that no matter how tough and strong you are, no matter how superhuman even, you're still vulnerable, and abusive people can still take advantage of you. They can still hurt you. They can use you. They can control you,
Well, and I think putting it in another word, right? It's not that abusive people are always powerful, but that it's not a reflection of who you are if you get manipulated when or if that ever happens to you, right? I think that I got chills and goosebumps when you said everyone comes in together to support her, because that's always one of my big things. Women supporting women and other things like that. But especially in cases of manipulation or abuse, or using it as a metaphor, maybe even for a toxic relationship.
No, totally.
I don't want to say toxic, but that's on the minor level. But an abusive relationship, you can be a totally different person. In that relationship without superpowers. And having those as a metaphor for I can't control myself. I think a lot of people can be in situations of varying levels, right? Where
absolutely,
the influence of somebody else makes you someone you don't want to be, someone you don't recognize.
Yeah, I mean, I totally think people can understand what it's like to be pinned under somebody's thumb and have no ownership of yourself, and to not understand why or how this could be happening to you. And you're living it, but you're not even believing that you're living it. Yeah, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah. Sometimes it's something you have to find in yourself. Sometimes you don't have the strength to do that by yourself.
Right.
And I get Jessica Jones listening to you say it, right? It's it didn't matter. She's objectively a strong person.
Right.
But you do need support. So
there's a really interesting part when she's depicted in that coma, recovering from her injuries. There's a part where Jean Grey, she's one of the X-Men.
Jean Grey, is it? Thank you. You saw like the blank look on my face. She's a psychic X-Men.
Yes, she's like super powerful.
Okay.
And she has like psychokinetic powers, mind control.
The point is she could go into someone's mind,
yes,
which she does.
That's right. Which she does. What happens is she goes into Jessica Jones' subconscious and she equips her with a mental defense for if she comes across the Purple Man again, she will have this tool to protect herself. I didn't understand what was happening at first. It kind of throws you in, but then it all makes sense because that's what gives her the ability to resist the Purple Man again when he appears again, which is kind of the climax of the story.
Oh, that's a really beautiful metaphor as well.
It's great.
So he does pop up again, and then this time she's able to resist him.
Yes, this time it's a very happy ending. He gives her a command, and she is able to
throw it off.
Yes, she can resist it. She punches him and knocks him out.
Sick. So yeah, good.
It's really satisfying.
I love that. I love seeing evil people get punched.
Yes.
So then from that, actually, do you think that that's why you would consider this a tale of our time? Or another way to say that is like why other people would find meaning in this as well?
Totally. I mean, I feel like we talked about before, so many people have experienced something like this.
Yeah.
To varying degrees. Maybe from a family member. Maybe you're trapped in a relationship that's not good for you. Even maybe a friendship that's not good for you.
Yeah.
Things... And you don't know necessarily what's going on until you're out of it.
Right.
Yeah. And then you look back and you're like, oh, my God, what was happening? Mm-hmm. And another thing is she's really not coping well. As you when you meet her, she's like a loser. She's just a PI. She works for herself from paycheck to paycheck.
Especially compared to like the people who save her, like where she maybe thinks she should be.
Yeah, and like heroes are supposed to be like glamorous, saving the world. She's not. She's an alcoholic.
Yeah,
she's just like drinking herself to death in her little PI office. You really get the sense of like what happened to this person, and then. Of course, you get to find out. And that's what's really satisfying about this is it's like you're meeting somebody who feels so real and learning about why they're so damaged.
Right. I'm kind of seeing like, it could happen to anyone.
She kind of gives up on the whole superhero thing. They invite her back. They say, do you want to,
Everyone's like, hey, you were pretty sick.
Like, do you want to be an Avenger again? Yeah. She's just like, no. It's just, I think she wants to make her own way after that.
Of course. Yeah.
She just kind of keeps plugging away.
Yeah. Well, we're actually almost out of time.
What, already?
I know. But I was going to ask you first if you could give the Alias run a one-phrase subtitle of your own, what would it be?
I would say, so it's what? Jessica Jones, private investigator.
Private eye.
PTSD haver.
PTSD.
Hero loser.
Yeah. Let's do it. That's good, though. I've never done a show where we are discussing it the whole way through.
Oh,
I've really enjoyed it.
No, I mean, this is such a good story, and I really encourage everybody to read the comic. It's not the same as the Netflix series. I watched a little, but to be honest with you, I found it like too triggering to continue.
Well, I was going to say also, probably to that point, like, these are trigger warnings, right? Sexual trauma, abuse, and violence, physical violence as well.
Control, things like that.
Right. So if those are things, maybe not for you, but if you think that you could like power through that, like it sounds like it's definitely like a very worthwhile read, at least.
Awesome. Like I said, I couldn't watch the show. It was just too much to see it presented like on screen in your face
with
like that.
Real people too.
Right.
I find like that's a big difference for me. The
Plus
art is easier sometimes.
The story is different, actually. I think the story in Alias is better. It's more complete because the TV series kind of eliminates or consolidates certain characters.
Yeah.
It just doesn't include the same like colorful cast, I guess I would say. It's just trying to achieve something more streamlined. And the comic book is just much richer. I
love that. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, if you ever want to come back, we could talk about more comics or something else in the future.
Something old.
Yeah. Let's do it. Bring your old nerd stuff. I love it. And thank you to everybody else out there for joining us. This has been Tales of Our Time on Radio Taiwan International. I was your host, Amanda Stevens, with my guest, Hanna Bilinski. And I hope that you all enjoyed learning more about Jessica Jones' Alias, Private Eye, PTSD, superhero loser.
Yes.
A Tale of Our Time. We'll see you next time.